See, I wanted to go low. You should be expressive, you know? That's good. That's good. All right, roll.
When I was a kid, I ran everywhere, especially if I was late for dinner. I knew I had to be the 6 o'clock train, or it would cost me 2 minutes. Then I ran even faster past the madhouse, because the screaming women scared the heck out of me. I finally got to my building and ran upstairs to my house. The thing that day is that the crying of the women, instead of going away, got louder and louder. When I got to the door of my apartment, I realized that was my mom doing the crying. I sneaked into my bedroom and I sat there listening to my dad going at my mom. My mom was bleeding and crying. My dad would say mean things and then he would smack her.
Gathering himself, ranting progressively until he'll hit her again. And I remember being on this side of the wall. Not realizing conceptually, intellectually, but I think emotionally realizing I was a coward. I didn't have the courage to go and enter the room and stop the guy, you know, confront him, just confront him. My father had a 9mm pistol in his bedside table.
It's nice to aim with it.
He used to sit me next to him, and I helped him clean that gun many times. He was quite obsessed with it. Why didn't I ever get that gun and shoot him?
All right.
Because I grew up in a household of a very loving, nourishing monster. My father was a man who could love you, and then he would torture you, you know, psychologically and physically. And we had to function within the household. And in order to function, you find yourself becoming an accomplice to the very person who oppresses you. The person throws things at you, break things on the wall. And then leaves, and you find yourself cleaning. You know, when the person comes back, the house is in perfect condition as if that had never happened. You know, why did you do that? You know, why do you come back every day? Even when you're growing older, you know, I was a teenager. I didn't have to go back. I could just go to my grandparents or stay in a friend's house and say, I'm not going to go back, I know I'm going to be tortured. And then, because that person is not uniquely evil, because that person is also a nourisher, you know, who provides for you, who also gives you love, attention.
There you go.
It becomes this perturbed, you know, relationship.
All we knew about the world at that time was from a black and white TV.
Push the launching lever and begin the countdown. 10.
What made it all the more awesome in the weekends when we went to the movies and watched Technicolor films. My first Western was Kill Them All and Come Back Alone. My dad told me that the Indians were the good guys, so Blade was my favorite character. I couldn't believe when he gets killed.
But the Western that really was a game changer was Once Upon a Time in the West. And Henry Fonda, who plays the heavy, sticks this harmonica in the boy's mouth. His brother is with a noose around his neck, rigged to a portico of a farm. And he knows that there's only so long the boy can stand. And Henry Fonda says, "Come on, play to your brother. Play, have fun." But that's exactly what the torturer wants and demands, that you have to participate in his design. I was a terrible student, I spent pretty much all my time daydreaming. And I think filmmaking has been a continuation of daydreaming by other means. I came to America to be a filmmaker. I finished film school as hip-hop was going mainstream. So in a couple of years, I was shooting music videos that were shown on MTV, VH1, of the likes of Mobb Deep, Lords of the Underground, Main Source. I always found American culture to be irresistible. But once I moved to the US, I also found certain things indefensible. After growing up in a dictatorship, I couldn't understand that what was supposed to be a great democracy allowed such brainwashing and indoctrination of the masses. The Pledge of Allegiance, I didn't understand why my kids would come home and say that they were doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would say, "What does pledge mean?" They say, "I don't know." "What does allegiance mean?" "I don't know." "To the Republic." "What does Republic mean?" It's like that kind of thing is what I grew up with, under tyrannies, telling me what to think and what to say. The nationalistic rallies and sport events. The Super Bowl with like a flag the size of the field, and then is the Star Spangled Banner, but then is God Bless America, and then is the Green Berets. I mean, the Pentagon has a budget, actually, to deploy this circus. So when I started my narrative work, my shtick was to tackle genres like westerns and romantic comedies, war movies, and subvert the conventions by injecting reality as I saw it. Not a cookie-cutter kind of forced narrative, spoon-feeding you, whatever pleases you. You see popping out of Hollywood all the time.
Instead, I made a gangster film about a love triangle between three gay hitmen. I made a romantic comedy about two schizophrenics. I wrote a World War II film from the German point of view.
And I had no doubt that I was going to take the world by storm. That I was going to be part of the dialogue of my generation. Move away, Scorsese. Better retire, Spielberg. Here I come. In any case, all my masterpieces didn't yield fortune or glory. I had a young family, kids were popping, and I had to help the wife put food on the table, and I found myself working commercials. Commercials! I, who wanted to fight the system, to inject reality to the brainwashing of the masses, ends up working in commercials, helping sell products and ideas that, quite frankly, I did not want to be part of. There I was pushing 50 and working out of a film equipment garage. Being a dad, having kids was always in my script, from first to final draft. I think because I love being a kid. I miss being a kid, and having an abusive father never spoiled that for me. I kept on writing and dreaming of making films, but it was getting harder and harder as time went by, financially, emotionally, and this put a tremendous stress on my marriage, and I think I exhausted my wife's natural resources, if you will. I exhausted her goodness. I found myself living in the back of a parking lot in an RV. The kids would come, they enjoy, there was something kind of adventurous about it, but it was crushing. But I wasn't done. There was a movie I always wanted to make. It's called The Intruder, based on a story by my favorite writer, Jorge Luis Borges. The Intruder had already been adapted into film by multiple directors. It's a story about two hoodlum cowboys who, after stealing cattle and raiding ranches, go to brothels at the end of the day to satiate their sexual needs. But one day they run into this girl, and she sparks something in them that has never happened before. And they bring her home. The only woman who's ever stepped inside her house is Juliana Burgos, who is thereafter subjected to enslavement of all imaginary forms. The fact of the matter is that as they share her, they start becoming violently jealous of one another, and the tension escalates to the point in which they fear they're going to kill one another.
Mulher pra cama. É só.
I wanted to be inside of her so I could say, go get out of here, escape. These guys are going to kill you, You're not going to be able to separate this man.
Mátalo, mátalo!
The older brother kills Juliana in a kind of a sacrificial way.
Hoje eu matei. Que fique aqui com seus trapos. Assim já não faz mais mal a ninguém.
I found that Juliana's plight within the Nilsson's household mimicked mine. Somehow she couldn't escape. She couldn't find a way to escape within herself. Perhaps she felt also an integral part of that symbiotic relationship between her and the brothers. As dangerous and violent and volatile as it was her reality. The film versions of The Intruder that I found followed Borges' story pretty much to a T. Then I found this Argentinian version of The Intruder.
We see Juliana cleaning, wiping, cooking, taking care of the household. While her life is no sea of roses, Juliana seems serene. Christian, the older brother, even gives her a lamb for a pet. But just when you think there is a normalcy in the household, it cuts to Juliana sitting inside a cage while the cries of a woman echo through the house.
And you see, like the silhouette of a woman hanging from a meat hook, jerking violently. Like I remember growing up watching movies like Mad Love and the awful Dr. Orlov, you know, that have this theatrical torture scene. It's all a sexual act. It's all about subjugating the girl for the guys to get off on it. In this Argentinian version was completely different. It's grotesque. The sound design makes you feel claustrophobic.
A limpiar la casa.
That night I had a dream. I wake up with Christian looking straight into my eyes. He has my father's eyes. I stumble out of the cage and I walk on Juliana's feet. I see the silhouette of people that guide me to the fancy room. The light pulsates as if it were a breathing thing. I'm carrying a basin filled with water. And then I start wiping. Then the screaming begins again. Was I going to be able to push the door open and confront the brothers?
I identify so much with Juliana because growing up I felt entirely powerless. When faced with the brutality and the abuse, I didn't know how to confront it. I just learned how to endure it.
Later, when the screaming stopped, I went back to check that the floor was spotless. I didn't want Juliana to get into trouble. Tensions rise as the brothers fight over Juliana's attention. Each one wants to be cared for first. They want to impress her with their skills. It's not long until Christian realizes that Juliana prefers his younger brother.
And then he cuts to a rope falling into frame. But you think they're going to hang her. Before you know, they swing her like she was a little girl. That echoed so much of my childhood because any moment that a threat occurred, maybe that threat will become a hug.
Although Juliana got through another day, Christian's jealousy seems to announce her doom. Christian makes Juliana cook a stew out of her pet lamb. Then he goes ringing the servant's bell and telling her to go dress up. The grand finale. Juliana reappears clad in a beautiful red dress, ready for the special occasion.
The older brother grabs the guitar and strums away this ballad, you know, as his younger brother and the beautiful, sexy Juliana dance.
La luna sobre el cielo azul me alumbra como otra blanca luna que ya nunca veré más.
Talk about a cookie cutter ending to a tragic story. Then I found out that this version was filmed in Argentina, where I grew up, in 1978, and it was shot during the Soccer World Cup that took place in Argentina. This version of Intruder was acted and directed by Nanim Timoico.
Creo que nací para estar arriba de un escenario, para bailar, para filmar, para trabajar, era mi motivo. En el Maipo fue donde yo hice carrera, porque tenía buena memoria visual, podía recordar las coreografías con facilidad y empecé a hacer reemplazos. Recuerdo que muchas veces el regisseur del teatro decía, no sé, se desmayó la vedette, ¿quién se anima? Y ahí estaba yo corriendo por la escalera, poniéndome la ropa y salía.
At this point, I knew I had to charge a ticket to Buenos Aires with my credit card and go back home and see who this Nanim Timoico was and what is the film that she made.
I arrived in Buenos Aires just in time to catch Nanim's last adaptation of Intruder. The next morning, I found my way to Nanim's dance studio.
nunca fui de militar en política, porque siempre me pareció que hay mucho que no entiendo y mucho que no veo. Yo vivía mi mundo en el teatro y no tenía conciencia. La gente de mi edad fue una generación prácticamente diezmada. Desapareció mucha gente, murió mucha gente. En ese momento se decía, se lo chuparon. Bueno, ¿qué pasó con dónde está? Amigos, ¿dónde están? ¿Qué pasó? Leí La intrusa de Borges, pero no nos tenemos que ir muy lejos para ver que esa historia es bastante común, lamentablemente. Creo que ha sido siempre así, a lo mejor cambiamos un poco el escenario. O sea, cualquier libro del siglo pasado está esa misma historia, que lamentablemente sigue pasando. La versión original era la chica está vestida de calle y en un apagón de luz aparecía vestida de noche. Y yo había pedido que no. Igual cuando hacía la escena de mi muerte, se ve entrar por atrás. Me clava un puñal y me mata.
For me, this whole thing was becoming such an uncanny experience because, like, there was a time when Borges, Nanin Timoico, and I coexisted in the same city. The three of us experienced events during that period of time that essentially revealed who we really were.
Firmado Jorge Rafael Videla, Teniente General, Comandante General del Ejército.
Podríamos decir que hasta se esperaba un golpe de Estado. Tal vez se puede pensar en cuándo iba a ser el momento del golpe, específicamente febrero, marzo, abril.
Gran parte del país lo esperaba, lo anhelaba y lo aplaudía.
Borges does say in 1976 that democracy is an abuse of statistics.
And the Argentine people have become totally accustomed with a military government. There was a general feeling, because things before had been so bad. There was an insurgency going on in Argentina. There was no law, there was no order, the judge was terrified. Things were totally out of control.
When this coup started, personally I was very happy. I remember being in my flat hearing bullets all the time. People, the next thing you think you knew somebody had been killed or someone that you knew had died or someone had been taken. It was like the Wild West. You didn't know who was going to come in and kill you or take you away or throw you in the ditch.
The coup had been seen abroad as a velvet coup. No bloodshed, things were free, there was no talk about censorship. I think it's only now that the Argentine people are gradually realizing that this coup was very, very different. Because they were fighting the Third World War against international communism. The United States had not woken up, the West had not woken up, the Catholic religion had not woken up to what had happened, and Argentina was going to lead that, you know. And with that lunacy, they immediately became exactly like the Nazis.
En el año 76 ellos se especializaron en los secuestros masivos. Estábamos todos acá y éramos 7 y había solo uno que tenía una pequeña participación política y se van a los 7.
Had the Ford Falcon, which became, oh, you know, this was a horror machine, because you saw them out in the streets with their guns outside, roaring through the town, showing off, picking people up, you know. You saw people kidnapped off the streets in broad daylight.
Causas judiciales en curso, etcétera, donde se ha demostrado con prueba fidedigna que en fábricas como la Ford o la Mercedes-Benz hubo centros clandestinos donde los trabajadores desaparecen.
Much to my surprise, I got an invitation to talk to President Videla. Mr. President, the people are still being taken away. It's still going on. What is happening? Then his manner changed. He got very angry. And one of the journalists, a very, very eminent man, cut in and said, well, you've got to realize a president has to do something, you know, that he doesn't like to do.
Es decir, nosotros lo vivimos en carne propia, que las Fuerzas Armadas podían entrar a tu casa, golpearte la puerta y llevarte de una manera. Todos tuvimos esa sensación de ilegitimidad completa, ¿no?
Nanim told me that the idea for her was to adapt an 1860s story happening in a rural Argentinian setting, being actually populated with the stories of modern women from the 1970s and 80s who were imprisoned in the concentration camps during the dictatorship.
Nanim told me to go to the National Archives and watch recently recovered scenes from her version of the Intruder.
Estoy buscando las fábricas. Si no hay fábricas, ¿usted sabría dónde están? Sí, ¿dónde puede encontrar si no hay fábricas? Posible.
I was arrested, kidnapped, because I was illegally arrested. I thought that I was going to be able to kill myself with the cyanide pill I was carrying.
Entonces la ponía entre los dientes, de manera que ante cualquier situación de emergencia yo la preparo y con eso era suficiente, ¿no? Es muy loco lo que voy a decir, pensado desde hoy y acá, sentada en un café, pero esto a mí me daba tranquilidad.
So when I couldn't, because they choked me and they made me spit the pill, I didn't know what to do. Then they threw me in the floor of the car, in the back seat. And they were very happy, they were very excited. We are heading to Alpha with the rabbit. They call me the rabbit.
Para usted, ¿qué debe tener una mujer?
Chispa y llama.
¿Ah, sí? Sí. Igual que un magiclick.
Bueno, los magiclicks solo tienen chispa.
Yo digo el magiclick fuego, que tiene chispa y llama. Llama y chispa.
¿Y cómo se llama?
Yo, Ricardo.
No, el magiclick.
They tie me to a metal bed. They started torturing me with electric prod. If you tell us what we want, we'll send you home. And the rest were yelling at me and calling me names, insulting me, and making nasty observations about my breasts and my vagina. And one of them pulled out his penis and told me they were going to rape me. And at that time I thought, that's like natural, right? And one of them looked at me in the eye and told me, I'm the owner, I am the lord of your life and death.
Yo cumplí 17 años en el campo de concentración. Como yo era la más chica en el campo de concentración, me pusieron el apodo de Piojo. La tortura fue brutal, me torturaron durante muchos días. Me decían, nosotros sabemos que vos te querés morir, pero te vamos a mantener viva.
Recuerdo el contacto físico de su mano con mi brazo o mi mano, diciéndome, bueno, es mejor que hables, es mejor que digas las cosas. Me hago la absolutamente tonta, que yo no tenía nada que ver, que Juan no estaba acá, que Juan estaba en el exterior. Entonces me torturaban 10 veces más porque no creían que yo no tenía nada que ver.
En ese momento había que pensar en cosas de la infancia, porque si a uno lo dormían, por ejemplo, dormido repetía lo último que había pensado.
En mi caso yo me aferraba a no dar información, tratar de no decir nada, porque cualquier cosa te podía comprometer, digamos. Decías una palabra y era suficiente para que después sobre eso buscaran indagar algo más. Y veías hasta dónde podías soportar el dolor. Es decir, el momento en que vos ves que la tortura se hace insufrible, y por momentos decías de que esa tortura te lleve a la muerte para no continuar en esa situación. Pero también en los momentos en que no te torturaban, vos buscabas de qué forma ibas a resistir en el siguiente momento. Es comprensible que no siempre se pueda resistir, digamos, ¿no? Porque hay límites humanos que no los conocés y los conoces ahí en ese momento.
En un momento se me desata la mano y en el medio de esa situación espantosa en que uno tiene el cuerpo que le tiembla y los gritos y bueno, le pido, ¿me podés dar la mano? Y entonces él me dice, ¿para qué querés que te dé la mano? Y entonces le dije, no sé, la necesito. Y tenía la mano así tendida, dándosela a él. Y él me dio la mano. Y yo me acuerdo que le apreté la mano, la largué y volví a poner la mano en el lugar donde él me tenía que atar.
La paradoja, por ejemplo, de que en un escenario donde estuviese la picana eléctrica, uno de los que estaba en esa escena pudiese darles la mano y cómo ese que les daba la mano era una tabla de salvación para resistir incluso a la tortura. Entonces digo, hay algo de la humanidad ahí, ¿no? Que va más allá de lo moral, que va más allá de lo éticamente correcto, de lo debido, de lo indebido.
¿Esta joya o un magiclick?
Esta joya.
Por inteligente merece este magiclick.
Gracias.
We have to remember that this is not a filmmaker. And there she is, adapting a classic of Argentinian literature, surrounded by censors who were there to make sure that she was loyal to the text and to the intentions of the author. The censors started noticing striking similarities between her set and the facade of the biggest concentration camp called Esma.
The major torture center was run by the Navy, and Massera took a personal interest in it and decided that certain people could be recuperated.
Along the stay of these women in the camps, they were found to be recoverable or not. And according to the judgment, their fate was sealed.
Uno de los primeros shocks que yo tuve dentro del campo de concentración fue días después de mi secuestro, ver el acolchado de mi cama del departamentito donde yo vivía con mi novio. Yo no sabía qué había pasado con él, colgado en el patio. Y pensaba, ¿por qué lo habrán lavado? Me lo imaginaba manchado de sangre. Después en la ESMA era más macabro todavía, porque nosotros veíamos los objetos que se habían robado de las casas de los compañeros, muertos o no, amoblando los distintos lugares de la ESMA.
Me di cuenta que los platos, que la fuente, que los vasos, que los cubiertos, que todo era robado. Convivíamos en el mismo lugar donde trabajábamos, traían a la gente a la rastra, la metían a torturar y cerraban y iban ellos y venían. Y a nosotros nos hacían meter adentro de las piecitas esas donde estábamos y trabajábamos.
They allowed the women to have their babies, then they killed the women, and then they gave the babies away to, people who were friendly to the government or military people or anything like that.
Una de ellas, a esta chica, la trajeron desde otro campo a parir ahí. Bueno, hubo unas compañeras que participaron del parto, que siempre ayudaban al médico obstetra. Después de eso, este tal Mariano me puso a otra compañera y a mí a ayudarla después del parto, que tenía el bebé ahí chiquitito y había que cambiar pañales y había que, no sé, acompañarla a ella, ir al baño, ese tipo de cosas. Me contaba cómo quería vivir con su familia en una casa, el jardín, el sol. Era una cosa, y yo la miraba y digo, ¿qué pasará? ¿La matarán? Cuando me trajeron al sótano, se la habían llevado, ¿no? Que ella no apareció nunca y encontramos al chico como a los 20 años.
Sé que el bebé se había muerto porque todavía no tenía 3 meses de embarazo. Una vez, cuando estaba acostada en la celda con los ojos vendados y con cadenas en las piernas, que estuve siempre así, empezó a moverse. Y para mí fue muy importante porque fue un modo de triunfar. En medio de la muerte, en un lugar donde se perseguía la pérdida absoluta de la condición humana, había un lugar de mi cuerpo que no habían podido llegar y era un triunfo.
Después de un tiempo que yo estaba secuestrada y que este Mariano muchas veces me llamaba para hablar, teníamos la misma edad. 6 meses de diferencia. Entonces, yo tenía esa cosa de poder hablarle cosas que con otra gente no podía hablar, ¿no? O sea, tenía una relación como de confianza, gestada en una cama de tortura.
Lo que tenía Cavallo era esa cosa de, en su momento, protegerme. Él me saca de la ESMA y me lleva a una casa. Él lo único que me dice en el trayecto es, mira, yo te saqué porque van a pasar cosas. Ni se te ocurre escaparte porque yo te voy a buscar hasta que te encuentre. Y me vine a buscar como a los 3, 4 días. Y yo le pregunto, ¿y para qué me sacaste? ¿Por qué vine a este lugar? Y él me dice, Ya te vas a dar cuenta cuando llegues adentro. Y cuando llegué, no había nadie. Y me dijo, vos estabas en una lista de personas dudosas. Por eso te saqué, para que en el momento de las decisiones no fuera... Y fue un momento que ahí eliminaron a un montón de compañeros. Muchísimos, porque de repente no volvieron más a estar ahí al lado de uno.
La relación con el Sota era una relación que empezó con sorpresa, porque la noche en que me torturaron él fue el encargado de cuidar que yo no me suicidara o que no me autodañara por la noche. Yo estaba tapada con una frazada y yo escuchaba que había alguien en la celda conmigo.
After having an electric shock or electricity in your body, you're not supposed to drink water, they say. There is one person who's part of the system, but comes up and tells you, oh, you poor little thing, you'll be all right, gives you a sweet, or lets you go out in the sun, and brings you a book or the newspaper, or you're cold and they give you a blanket, or you're hungry and they give you food. I mean, you tend to be grateful. It's human. I mean, you can't avoid it. You tend to trust him. I mean, you tend to think he's sincere, that he really cares for you, and I kind of like him. There's no way out.
I know it's a stretch, you know. I was never tortured by electric prods, you know, and I wasn't sexually abused or raped. I'm not comparing what I went through with the plight of these women, but I find it interesting that they found themselves in a paradigm in which they were forced to become accomplices to the very oppressor, you know, in order to survive. And that's the way I felt growing up too at home.
In the middle of the night, they knocked your door and asked you to grab a dress.
Yo le dije, ¿para qué? Y me dice, no sé, me dijo porque va a salir. Y ahí me agarró pánico, porque pensé que me sacaban a matarme. Y empecé a temblar. Me acuerdo que temblaba, pero temblaba todo el cuerpo. Y paramos delante de un restaurante, ahí, en la Costanera, y entramos, entonces todo, una mesa grande de gente, sí, el saludo de todos. Las mujeres hablaban, los hombres, todos se reían. Era como y yo, los ojos desorbitados. Y entonces me pregunta qué voy a comer, me acuerdo, Mariano, y yo dije, no, yo ya comí, claro, había comido la comida de ahí adentro. Y me acuerdo que Mariano, que lo tenía sentado al lado, me dijo, vos vas a comer todo lo que yo pida. Así, tenía un plato para él y el mismo para mí, yo comía. Y me fui de ahí sin saber dónde había estado, con quién había estado. Después supe que los varones, unos eran oficiales, los otros eran compañeros y las chicas eran todas, las mujeres eran todas compañeras, ¿no?
El tipo este de Imperio cumplía los años en enero. Hizo correr todos los paneles, porque eso, las cuchas eran paneles, la sala de tortura eran paneles. Es una fiesta con música, con un lunch espectacular. Si yo te lo relataran, se ve que lo habían comprado en una confitería muy linda de la zona y todo eso. Todos los que estaban afuera y habían podido venir, que ya tenían la libertad. Nos traen una caja así de maquillaje. Pinturas, lápiz, rouge, de todo. Todas nos pintamos. Menos una compañera, que así lo expresó. A estos hijos de puta yo no les voy a mostrar nada, ni voy a aparentar nada. La dejaron en paz hasta que, cuando a mí me sacaron, a ella no. Ella está desaparecida.
It was then that Nanim told me about Veronica, her best friend's disappearance.
And about how they had grown up, joined at the hip since they were little girls. Nanim staged Veronica's abduction as a mirror image of Juliana's, indicating that this was the brothers' daily catch. The scene takes a sharp turn once Veronica spits on Eduardo.
Esto no basta.
The mechanic breathing and the swallowing light spell doom. Veronica is obviously among thousands of others, one of the unrecoverables. We watch as she seems swallowed into the earth.
Mi mamá supimos que había sido secuestrada el 8 de diciembre de 1977 en la iglesia Santa Cruz con un grupo de 12 personas.
Todo ese grupo forma parte de los vuelos de la muerte y sus cadáveres aparecen en el Océano Atlántico, en la costa de Santa Teresita. Y el pueblo, que son esos cuerpos, decenas de cuerpos, que tira para adentro la marea.
Y hay cosas que te marcan a fuego, ¿no? Y te lo puedo asegurar.
Hearing the words branded by fire from Nanim's mouth was a hard stopper to me. It made me look back into my own life and witnessing how people from all over the world had essentially expressed the same idea. I remember being a kid and watching the image of this Buddhist monk immolating himself by fire in protest of the Vietnam War. Nanim told me something that introduced me to a complete new concept. She said, I knew at that moment that I had to define a battlefield where I can fight the system. Like Muhammad Ali, when he was told to go to Vietnam and he said, no Viet Cong ever called me a nigger, I'm not going to fight them there. They stripped his belt, they stripped him of his license, but that was his battlefield. I think it's like Rosa Parks, the day that she decided not to give her seat to a white man in a bus, that was her battlefield. Kaepernick taking the knee, he created his battlefield. The Nanim version Intruder is her battlefield. But the way she found to fight the system.
Nanim told me how one day an anonymous woman handed her a bundle.
En el pañol, donde se distribuían las ropas, veíamos ropas de gente que había pasado por Capucha y que se habían llevado en un vuelo de la muerte, y aparentemente los despojaban de sus ropas, los desnudaban y después traían la ropa, la lavaban y la distribuían entre los otros prisioneros que todavía estaban vivos. Entonces veíamos los zapatos, las camisas, las remeras, los pantalones de compañeros que nosotros habíamos visto ahí.
There was no doubt in her mind. This was Vero's dress. The night after wrap, Nanim stayed on set and built a shrine for Veronica's dress.
I see a scene that they tried to destroy, but one take survived partially. As she comes into this next room, Juliana appears all of a sudden very solemn. You see that she's walking toward the red dress, and then, boom, there is the green dress that Veronica was wearing. She stands facing this green dress and the red dress, and like she's going to make the decision of her lifetime. She reaches for one of the dresses, and when you're about to make out what dress she's about to grab, it goes up in smoke. There is making of footage from a Super 8 camera of Nanim playing Juliana, grabbing the green dress, ready to wear it for the final scene. And the moment she's about to enter the dining room and face the system with her own life at stake, she's abducted off the set. I think at that moment I realized that my mission was to vindicate Nanim's vision. As a filmmaker, as a human being, I had to build a replica of her set, inch by inch, and film the ending as she intended.
Whether or not we think of La Intrusa as a crime fiction kind of story, think it would be a bit of a hard argument to say that it's squarely that, because there's no detective. The crime happens at the end of the story, not at the beginning. But Borges also said that one of the good things about crime fiction is that it depends on the delicate infraction of its own laws.
El Mundial comienza el 1 de junio de 1978.
Vamos a dejar todo lo que tenemos. No sé si será mucho o poco, pero todo. Te lo deseamos de todo corazón. Muchas gracias. Yo digo que vamos a ganar. Yo soy siempre muy optimista, así que no tengo dudas.
This is Argentina 78.
Sí recuerdo que yo fui seleccionada como una de las niñas y niños que formaron parte de la apertura del evento. Era una coreografía completamente militar, ¿no?
Un talentosísimo dibujante argentino, Miguel Rep, comenzó a jugar con la similitud que tenía el logo del Mundial 78 con la obra El Grito. Él entendió que todo lo macabro que encerraba la última dictadura se parecía mucho más a las manos que están en la pintura.
Y bajo el signo de la paz, declaro oficialmente inaugurado este 11º Campeonato Mundial de Fútbol 78.
Los militares no se dan cuenta que ese día es jueves, que los jueves, como en el presente, es ronda de madres. Entonces la televisión holandesa se dividen, unos van a la cancha de River y otros van a la Plaza de Mayo. Y cuando aparece esa cámara, las madres, que por primera vez pueden hablar, rodean a ese periodista y va a aparecer un grito demoledor, un monumento a la pelea de las madres, que es una de ellas, Alconada Aramburu.
Vivos o muertos, angustia porque no sabemos si están enfermos, si tienen frío, si tienen hambre, no sabemos nada. Y desesperación, Señor, porque ya no sabemos a quién recurrir. Consulados, embajadas, ministerios, iglesias, todas partes se nos han cerrado, las puertas. Por eso les rogamos a ustedes, son nuestra última esperanza.
Por primera vez se transmitía al exterior en colores, pero nosotros todavía lo veíamos en blanco y negro. Ayúdennos.
Ayúdennos, por favor, son nuestra última esperanza.
A poco de asumir, se arma
un almuerzo con intelectuales.
And Borges was among those invited.
He was blind and living by himself with Fanny, the maid.
Hay un llamado de un periodista desde la redacción de Crisis a Borges. Le pide que aproveche para preguntar por Haroldo Conti.
Empezó como groseramente a equivocarse con el nombre de Conti, Corti, Kirki, Corki. Decía, y a parar, ¿cómo quiere que pida por alguien que ni siquiera sé pronunciar bien su nombre?
A los pocos meses, Pinochet, aprovechando la presencia de Borges en Chile, lo invitó a comer. Borges fue y salió de esa reunión también con el discurso de que el general Pinochet era un caballero. Cuando vino a Buenos Aires le avisaron, le dijeron, mire Borges, lo están usando políticamente.
Él siempre dijo que esa postura le había costado el hecho de no ganar el premio Nobel.
Bueno, estoy muy contento ya que por segunda vez vengo a visitar al presidente y el apoyo de la gente para nosotros es muy importante.
El señor Videla y la Junta Militar, digamos, esté con nosotros y nos apoye en todo sentido y haya dado todas las fuerzas y todo.
Morresi, jugadorazo aparte, tiene su hermano desaparecido. Pero con su hermano desaparecido, él estaba con su padre, mirando gran parte de esos abonos que comprabas para ver primera ronda. Sabías todo, pero sin embargo, estabas ahí.
Frente al desaparecido, en tanto esté como tal, es una incógnita el desaparecido. Es un desaparecido, no tiene entidad, no está, ni muerto ni vivo, está desaparecido.
En el campo de concentración ponían un televisor y nos hacían sentar frente al televisor. Y ellos, los represores, se sentaban entre nosotros.
Nanine tells me that she decided to shoot the final scene of her version of Intruder during the final of the World Cup between Argentina and Holland.
First-person novel where the narrator would be unreliable, there is the idea that a few readers, very few readers, would suspect an atrocious or banal reality that is beyond what's being told.
She wanted that as a cover to getting away with the ending as she intended, because she felt everybody, even the censors, would be watching the game.
La ESMA está a menos de 20 cuadras de la cancha de River. El grito de las tribunas se metía por las ventanas de la ESMA.
Classic detective fiction usually involves something being recreated or reimagined or solved by a new cast of characters who replace the cast of characters of the crime scene itself. One of the ways that a narrative can be made more interesting is that it can present a reality that is more complex than what is declared to the reader.
En el partido con Holanda, la verdad es que es un duelo desde el primer minuto hasta el final del suplementario.
Después de cada gol veía a los represores, por ejemplo a Steve, abrazarse con los prisioneros. Y después veíamos por la ventana que daba a Avenida del Libertador los autos pasar, celebrando, tocando bocina, cubiertos con banderas argentinas. La sensación era que si ellos no se daban cuenta que nosotros éramos desaparecidos, los militares iban a gobernar durante 40 años más. nosotros sentíamos que era una profunda derrota. A mí me provocaba mucha desazón, desolación, angustia.
En ese momento había que pensar en cosas de la infancia, porque si a uno lo dormían, por ejemplo, dormido repetía lo último que había pensado.
Que te dé la mano. No sé, la necesito. Y él me dio la mano.
Después del partido nos quisieron sacar a celebrar para que nosotros viéramos la emoción, cuál era el delirio triunfalista del pueblo argentino, que les garantizaba a ellos permanecer en el poder. Nos llevaron a una pizzería y estábamos sentados ahí, pálidos, serios, algunos con sonrisas forzadas, y todo el mundo saltaba arriba de las mesas y arriba de las sillas y se abrazaba y lloraba y se reía. Les quedaba muy en claro que había sido una gran victoria de la dictadura ganar la Copa del Mundo.
Hizo correr todos los paneles. Es una fiesta con música.
Then it was when I finally realized that Nanim had decided to shoot both endings. She had come to understand that to turn a house of horrors into a party room was as obscene as to transform a Navy school into a torture center.
Cuando se produce el juicio a las juntas militares, Borges va un día a escuchar. Y ese día, cuando llega, está el testimonio de Basterra. Basterra es un ex detenido desaparecido de la ESMA. Es aquel que va a guardar las fotos de los detenidos y su testimonio fue importantísimo. Habló 4 horas y media sin parar. Borges, cuando sale de allí, escribe en el diario La Razón: escuché durante 4 horas y media a un hombre contar cómo lo secuestraron, cómo lo mantuvieron desaparecido, cómo lo torturaron, los desaparecidos que caían a su alrededor, sus compañeros. Y no puedo creer que después de tantos años, en lugar de pedir venganza, pedía justicia. Yo hubiera pedido venganza. Ese es un tipo que se encontró con la verdad en la puerta de su muerte.
encontrarte, siempre. ¿Cuánto yo?
You don't have anything you can ask me?
No.
Okay, come here.